All right. Good evening, and thank you for attending this evening's board meeting. This is the contemporaneous meeting for instrumentalities that do not have any new business or matters requiring deliberation. The meetings of the following instrumentalities: Laurel Homes 1, Lincoln View Incorporated, Reserve on South Martin, Southwest Ohio Housing Development Incorporated, Touchstone Property Services, Cary Crossing Development Corporation, West Union Square Development Corporation, Sutter View Development Corporation, Rad Development Corporation, Park Eden Evanston LLC, and Park Eden Apartments Development Corporation are hereby called to order. Roll call for attendance: Ms. Mitchell.
Present.
Mr. Weedman.
Present.
Ms. Spears, I don't know if she's able to respond just yet. Mr. Harris.
Present.
And the chair is present. We have a quorum. Assuming everyone has reviewed May 26, 2020 minutes for these instrumentalities, are there any corrections?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. A second? Thank you. Roll call. Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Ms. Spears. We'll move on. Mr. Harris.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The motion passes. As far as secretary recommendations, there is no new business for these instrumentalities. So may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. And roll call. Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Ms. Spears. Mr. Harris.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The meeting is adjourned. So now we move on to the regular board meeting of the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority for Tuesday, June 30th, 2020. Welcome, everyone. The meeting is now called to order. Roll call. Ms. Mitchell.
Present.
Mr. Weedman.
Present.
Ms. Spears. Mr. Harris.
Aye.
The chair is present. We have a quorum. Item 3 is approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the... Thank you. Thank you. And that's from the HCV Administrative Plan changes, board meeting held on May 26, 2020. Roll call, Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Ms. Spears. Mr. Harris.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The motion passes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the regular board meeting held on May 26,
So moved.
2020? Thank you. Thank you. Any corrections? Hearing none. Roll call, Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The motion passes. Item 4 on our agenda is presentations, and we have none this month. Item 5 on our agenda is public comments. We don't have any requests to speak this month. Item 6 is the JRAB Ross grant update. We don't have a JRAB Ross grant update. Item 7 is discussion of secretary recommendations. 7A is the financial report. Resolution 5413 to approve fiscal year 2020 May financial statements for the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority. Is there a motion to accept?
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussions? Would anyone like to hear from Rima? Hearing none, then roll call. Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, the resolution passes. Gary, I hope you'll let me know when Terry has joined in. Resolution 5414, approving the CARES Act supplemental funding budget for the fiscal year 2020-2021 for the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Mr. Chair,
Please.
before you take the roll call,
Please.
can we just take a moment and just let Rima go over what our 35,000 foot level plans are for this budget?
Of course. The floor is yours, Rima.
Thank you. Good evening. Just as Mr. Johnson said, this is at a very high level. First of all, I just want to let the board know that we received the CARES Act supplemental funding. We received about $3.9 million for asset management and operating subsidy. And then we received for the Housing Choice Voucher Program about $1.4 million in administrative fees. The CARES Act supplemental funding can be used for any kind of expense or expenditures that's directly related to the COVID-19 virus. Items such as anything we do on a preventative maintenance measures, such as PPEs, any kind of barriers, vehicle and facility cleaning. We also can utilize it for coordination of services related to the residents. We have also purchased IT equipment and any infrastructure necessary like video conferencing. And also another area that we can utilize the administrative fees, the supplemental funding that we received, is to provide incentives to bring on more units with current landlords and with new landlords also. So there's a variety of things that we can expend the dollars and cents on. We are going to be providing the board as we move forward with a summary of what our actual expenditures have been against this supplemental funding as we move forward. Anything that's not expended by year end has to be returned to the federal government. But I think with the things that we're seeing here, we'll probably utilize most of the funding. That's it. May I answer any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, Laverne.
I guess my question is, when you talk about coordinating services for the residents, can you give us some examples of those services?
Absolutely. So we can bring on a social service agency or consultants that can assist us in working on education, how to utilize PPEs, what are some of the services out there to assist residents if there's a loss of income, healthcare related services such as providing transportation for testing, these types of areas.
That's what I was going to ask. I was concerned about my residents being able to get testing in the various places, and if that would also allow for us to do testing on site. But that's another story, I guess. That's another.
Well, no, Ms. Mitchell. Actually, the board early on approved us in a partnership, and then also in this later in this meeting, we're asking for an additional approval. But we've partnered with an organization that has given our residents access for testing on site. So myself and Marquita worked with the organization. We sent out robocalls. We gave education through those robocalls for residents to respond either to us or to the provider of the testing. We have not gotten a large response to those robocalls, but our residents have had access to testing very early on. And like I said, Marquita and I worked with the contractor, but we got a lot of information from the City of Cincinnati Health Department as well. And one of the things that Rima hit on, Rima, do you want to talk a little bit about the RFP that we put out?
Oh, certainly. So our RFP, the RFP that just has been published, I think recently, will bring in a consultant slash social service coordinator into CMHA that will help coordinate with all our sites, services such as the educational pieces, connect our residents to whatever their needs may be. So let's say, I mean, even to the degree that if any of our residents, unfortunately, if they would, get the virus, we can have services such as delivery of groceries. If there are children that get the virus or family members and they have to quarantine, we can assist with coordinating their education through online services, connecting them with internet access and, tablets or PCs, laptops to assist them with their online educational process. There's a whole host of services that we're hoping that this consultant, this agency that will come in will assist us with all our high rises, our family developments, our scattered sites. So yes, those are the types of services we're looking to do.
Thank you.
Sure.
Did you have a thought?
Yeah. I was just thinking if, as we get close to the end where we either use it or lose it, we may want to stock up on PPE as much as possible just to make sure that we've utilized all the funds that we have available to us.
We have plans to make sure we utilize most of the, if not all of the dollars.
Well, that's good to hear. I wonder, and I don't expect you to have a full response tonight, but I wonder, having heard recently about CPS's plans for, half the kids 1 week, 2, maybe 3 in classroom days, and the hardships that's going to create for working parents going forward. Have we heard any ideas in the resource community on how they're going to be able to, whether that's an important issue to try to address? Are we in those discussions?
Yeah, we actually, early on for our employees, we've been talking about that a lot through this whole process. So one of the reasons that we want to continue the mobility work from home is that very reason that you brought up. And then we were figuring that our employees are going to have this issue because of their kids maybe not going to school every day like they used to. So we've been talking about it a whole lot for our employees. And then I know Marquita and I have had conversations about it. What does that mean for our sites? Because now where we usually have kids that go to school when school starts, that means that we're always going to have kids at home and on site. And is that going to cause additional activity inside the units and or it's going to cause a hardship for our residents that are working? They're going to have to make a hard decision whether to leave some of those kids at home or not. So when we get that social service agency on, we're going to talk to them about building some type of education around safeties of leaving kids, school-age kids at home, and to see if we can, help them with any services or anything. Because the biggest thing is going to be they're going to want to go to work if they have a gainful employment.
Sure.
And they may have a 7 or 8 year old kid that they have to look at. I can't afford daycare. Can I leave them at home? So that's going to be a huge decision for them, for a whole lot of parents. And we even heard last night in the CPS meeting that there was a lot of parents that, work full time. They were having a hard time with it as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's heartening to know that it's so much on your radar and that you've been focusing on it as much as you have. I think that's going to be a big one, big impact. Okay. Any other comments for Rima? Hearing none, then let's move on to the vote for Resolution 5414. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Reedman?
Aye.
And has Ms. Spears been able to join? Mr. Harris?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Now, Resolution 5402. That was tabled at our last month's meeting. Getting a lot of feedback. Is it something I'm doing?
No, I
Is it
think
something
it's
I'm doing?
coming from Gary.
It's coming from Gary.
Okay.
Okay.
We're pointing at you, Gary. How's it feel? Okay, you fixed it. Resolution approving the fiscal year
Spears has a
2000.
computer.
Resolution 5402, approving the fiscal year 2021 budget for the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority. Is there a motion to accept?
Motion.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none.
Mr. Chair, if
Yes.
I apologize, if we can allow Rima to, this year's budget is pretty unique, and
Okay.
Rima and Vincent and the financial staff has put a lot of hard work. I put a few hurdles in front of them, and they came through with those hurdles. So, yeah, Rima, if you don't mind just going through this on some of the vocal points of the budget.
Absolutely. So the fiscal 2021 budget, it starts off reflecting about 205,000 positions, which is a reduction of around 20 positions for fiscal 2021 as compared to fiscal 2020. All the budgets have been budgeted at break even. The management services budget for 2021 is at 11 million. And as compared to 2020, which was 9.8, so that's an actual increase of 12%, and that is primarily due to the developer fees that we are receiving from the RAD conversions and some of the affordable housing developments that we're doing. The asset management budget this year is at 32 million. It is down from 34 million in 2020, and that is about a 6% reduction. And that has occurred primarily due to the conversions we're doing from public housing, from asset management to RAD. By July, we should have over 600 units converted over to the RAD program, to the affordable housing side. The Housing Choice Voucher Program is actually been budgeted at $7.5 million, which is approximately a 7% increase, which in 2020 we had 7 million projected. So altogether, they're all, as I said, been set up for break even, and you will see as we're moving into 2021, there's going to be at least 3 more additional closings. We're hoping a couple of our high rises and Mariana Terrace will convert over. We'll also be starting on the affordable side. We'll be starting on Bennett Point. So there's going to be a lot of activity in 2021 as far as conversions and new development. So, yeah, if I may answer any specific questions, I'm happy to.
So you see in those numbers exactly what was the objective of RAD and beginning to show up.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that, Mr. Chair, to Rima's comments on this year's budget. We put out another RFP last week. We were debating internally whether to award a larger contract to the Sheriff's Department for Winton and Findlater and Millville. And after having a conversation with the police chief of Cincinnati, what we decided to do is instead take those dollars and support a community policing RFP, where there's organizations that'll come into the community and try to help those neighborhoods bridge the conversation between law enforcement and what are some of the things that they can do to help prevent and reduce crime in their neighborhoods. So we talked about it at one of our all staff meetings, and we definitely said we wanted to do something, but then we decided after talking to police chief that this maybe was a better approach than just hiring the police department, the sheriff's department, and based on what's going on in our city, our country, it was just a better use of the funds to try to accomplish what we were trying to accomplish. So hopefully in another month or so, month and a half, we'll be coming before you on who that partnership will be with.
Yeah, that's very exciting, Greg. I'm sure everyone will be very pleased to hear what more you have to say on that subject when the time is right. It's a big subject.
And one more thing, not everybody, I think, well, Rima knows, but one of the other thing I wanted to make sure with the approval of this budget, you're approving something that probably, and Rima, correct me if I'm wrong, or Lisa Thomas, you probably can correct me as well. I don't think has ever happened in the history of the PHA. One of the things that we've been talking about, myself, Rima, and Lisa, is the hardship on our employees and being able to switch to the mobility and try to continue to get everything done with all of the pains that we've been having with Pinecrest and this COVID-19, the staff continuing to relocate, answer the questions, answer the HUD questions, and just as probably 6 hours ago, answer questions to all the funders to get everybody on board with signing everything, along with continuing to do the day-to-day work and answer, and then maintenance working on mobility. We believe that with the passage of this budget, we've worked out where we'll be able to give every employee that in CMHA some type of one-time incentive, and this is including the maintenance staff. So this is not in separation of maintenance staff. This is all together. So I posed that to Rima, and I can't say she double looked at me because we're not seeing each other as much. We're talking a lot, but she did say, okay, I'll see what I can do. And I would have to say that they put the pen to pad where we were able to do that. So with the approval of this budget, you will be doing something historic that hasn't happened at the PHA before.
We like historic stuff. Well done. That's really big. It's hard to estimate or hard to articulate the significance of that. Sometimes, maybe a lot of times, people feel taken for granted that that's what they have to do to keep their job. And, this is a pretty good way to articulate that their efforts are being recognized, especially if it can be, in part, a financial reward. So, any other comments on the budget? If not, roll call, Ms. Mitchell. Laverne, do you have your mute on? You do?
Aye.
Okay. I can see you saying aye. Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Item 7B is request for approval to solicit bids for the following items, of which we have none this month. Item 7C is resolutions to award contract renewals, of which we have none either. Item 7D is adopt a resolution to award the following construction contracts. Resolution 5415, authorizing the CEO of CMHA to enter into a contract for solicitation 2020-3004, office and maintenance building renovation, that's pre-rad, at Mariana Terrace Apartments for the amount of $359,900, funded through capital funds.
Motion.
Thank you. A second? Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Now, resolution 5416, authorizing...
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I believe Miss Spears is having some computer problems. That's why she's
Okay.
not on yet.
All right. I certainly don't want to give the impression that I'm overlooking her.
No,
tonight.
no, I think she's just having some issues with her
Okay.
computer.
All right. Thank you. And now Resolution 5416, authorizing the CEO of Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority to enter into a contract for solicitation 2020-3005, replacement of chiller at the President Apartments funded through capital funds.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussions? Yeah, I have one. What do we do with all our air conditioners out there? That's a half serious question.
Joe, you want to take that one?
So this is two things.
I didn't see it in the write-up.
So this is a property that has a massive chiller unit. It's the size of a small truck.
Yeah.
That chiller unit had some repairs to get it through last year, and it took us a while to get the scope and identify all the components that need to be replaced. We're at that point now. This is why it is that $209,000 figure as opposed to smaller window ACs. This building also can't support smaller windows ACs for every single unit. So we have to do something on this scale to be able to provide that cool air for them.
Yeah. Do we have a place to store all those temporary purchases?
So that would probably be better answered by Marquita, because once this chiller is replaced, those window units are not that old. So I'm sure they have some place, but she'd probably be better to answer that.
I don't want you to take a lot of time, Marquita, but just make us feel good about that. I mean, that's well in the six figures that we spent on all that, right?
Well, not quite six figures. But what we will do with the individual air conditioning units is that we'll use those as a replacement in the event that there is some other issue at another apartment, or where we have to temporarily put some type of air conditioning unit, just like we did with the president. So they'll be fine.
Okay, great. It's great to know that we can get more mileage out of them.
And the most logical place to keep those, depending on what the final number is, in the warehouse right there at CO. There's plenty of room in the warehouse to store them.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Hearing none, then let's see. Roll call, Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Now we move on to Resolution 5417, authorizing the CEO of CMHA to enter into a contract for solicitation 2019-3020, cooling systems upgrades at Horizon Hills Apartments funded through capital funds.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? I think many of us were at that site after such significant work was done in recent months. Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Item 7E, adopt a resolution in the general category, Resolution 5418, authorizing the CEO of CMHA to extend the stay-at-home orders and work-from-home policies.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thanks much. Any questions?
Where are we extended to now, Greg? Where are we currently? How long we approved this stay at home?
August 31st.
Okay. So you're just asking for authority to continue it past August 31st?
Till August 31st, because because today was the last extension that you gave.
Gotcha.
And we're still vetting out with our consultants and purchasing all of the spit guards and floor markings, and we're getting all of our schedules. So we're going to take this month to actually get into the staff scheduling, where 2 days, 3 days, homes and things like that. So then we can present a full plan.
Okay. Yeah, the question I originally asked was, when was that ending? And you're telling me it's ending today. So we're just
it was today.
August 5th. Okay, I'm good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and obviously we look forward to that fuller presentation. Who knows what we may find with many of the tasks being performed very capably from home. All right, let's see. And now I've gotten myself lost. We've had questions. Now roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Resolution 5419, authorizing the incorporation of legal entities to facilitate the rental assistance demonstration, otherwise known as RAD, conversion rehabilitation of Mariana Terrace.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Now resolution 5420, authorizing the CEO of CMHA to negotiate and enter into an agreement to lease 4848 Winesty Avenue to the Society of St. Vincent de Paul.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
A second. Thank you, Laverne. Any questions?
Greg, are they going to put a store in there, or what are they going to do?
No, they're already rented. We've been renting it, and it's at Winton Terrace, and they provide social services to residents.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Now resolution 5421, authorizing adoption of CMHA's personnel policies.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussions on that?
Do we have changes to that policy, or are we just adopting what we already had?
There
Right.
was one change made to the alternative work schedule, which was adding the telecommuting, and then the infectious disease and the whistleblower is newly developed.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Good question. All right. Roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Resolution 5422, adopting a change in the procurement policy for the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Reggie. And any questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Now resolution 5423, authorizing the CEO of CMHA to create and incorporate a new entity to be known as Bennett Point LLC and Bennett Point Development Corporation.
Motion.
Thank you. A second.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Resolution 5424, authorizing the CEO of CMHA to pursue financing for Bennett Point redevelopment and to execute documents for the purposes of applying for financing for redevelopment, which includes engaging lenders and tax credit syndicators.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, this is Reggie. Real quick, and what is this? This is for which project?
This is for Bennett Point, the 9% tax credit award in Pendleton, in the Cincinnati neighborhood of Pendleton.
Oh, this is what we're naming the tax credit award.
Yeah,
okay.
Bennett Point, correct.
Okay, great. That's it. Thank you.
Any other questions, Reggie? It's a good question. Okay. Let's see. Roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Resolution passes. Now, Resolution 5425, conferring authority to the CEO to negotiate and execute a memorandum of understanding with Alpha 7 Medical Company, LLC, for the provision of COVID-19 testing.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion beyond what we had earlier?
What kind of testing is this? Is this swab? Is it saliva? Is it? Do we know?
I don't know what kind of testing it is. Do you, Marquita? I don't know that we know what type of testing it is. I don't know the type of testing.
So what? So how long does it take to get results once we do testing off of these test kits?
Off of this one, what they've shared with us is 48 hours.
Okay.
And this is we have the other company that the board approved, and this company has agreed to make sure to include all of our housing choice voucher residents. So we thought this would be a big help for residents that maybe are not attending the pop-up locations that are popping up throughout the county.
Okay, good.
Greg, do they do the actual results, or do they send it to a lab? Do they have their own lab?
I don't know the answer to that. Do you know the answer to that, Marquita?
Mm-hmm. No, they send it to the lab, and then the lab sends it to the physician that's working with them. The physician then contacts the individual and lets them know the result.
Thank you.
Is there a significant difference in the price for this longer timeline than the tests we've been hearing about? You get the result 15 minutes later. Is there a significant difference in the cost in those two approaches to testing? I think that was what I heard in part of Tom's question too.
I don't know the difference in the cost. I know the one cost that we heard, and the other company does the same thing where they have to send it off. It was $120.
Wow.
Per
Okay.
for the test, but no resident is charged because it's covered by CARES Act, Medicare, Medicaid.
Right. So these vendors have been approved for their accuracy and all other concerns related to this activity.
Correct.
Okay.
I have another question, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Johnson, if the cost of the testing, what about those individuals who may have insurance? Will their insurance cover it, or they don't have to submit it to their insurance and it's covered by the CARES Act, or what?
Yeah, if their insurance covers it, then obviously their insurance would be billed for it.
Okay.
All of the other apparatuses or funding pieces, just make sure no one gets turned away if they can't afford it.
Okay, thank you.
My question was kind of leaning towards the accuracy portion of it when I asked that question about, as you know, different tests are giving, some of them aren't really very accurate. In fact, I've recently read that there was a company out there that was doing testing that was only getting 50% accuracy, which that's like flipping a coin. So that's why I was asking the question: do we know what kind of tests they were? Because I think they're talking about that swab that goes all the way up, takes a little piece of your brain out.
Yeah.
That one's supposed to be pretty accurate, I'm told, but right. I don't really know.
And
that's why I was asking the question.
Yeah, that test that you're speaking of is the test that all of the pop-up areas are using, the swab.
Right.
I know which ones you're talking about, and some of those kits are coming from out of the country, and some of them have less than 50%. What we've been doing is using organizations that have, like the first organization you approved, they were actually doing testing with one of the Krogers. So we know that they're legitimate organizations that have already been doing testing, and they're trying to expand their base, their billing base, by providing the testing. And so this organization is one of those organizations as well.
Okay.
Yeah, well, as if you don't have enough responsibilities and duties, the assumption of this one is it's important, but again, thank you for managing to do everything else you're doing, as well as vet vendors and procedures and timelines to offer this to our tenant families. So again, it's easy to say, it's easy to be critical, but to be sure, another important task that the agency employees have taken on this year, and an historic year in that way as well. How much you have to move on the fly.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but I tell you, the group that's our staff, the group that's on the call here or on the Zoom call here with it, they've been Johnny on the spot to step up to the plate. Some of our conversations are hard, but at the end of the day, every last person on this call, they've been working as hard as they can to make sure all these things happen. So, I'm really proud of the group that I have.
Yeah.
I'm a little hard sometimes, but I'm still proud of the group that I have, because they have been working really, really hard.
Yeah. And I would imagine there's no distinction between Saturday and Sunday and Tuesday and Wednesday.
It's just about getting it done. Yeah.
Well, wonderful. It doesn't go unnoticed. All right. So let's see. Did I have the vote on resolution 5425? Sorry.
No.
Yes? Yeah.
Motion.
I think we already had a motion in a second, but I'm not sure. Did we vote on that, Joy?
Well, let's go ahead.
We have not voted. We have not.
Yeah, I don't think you voted on it.
Let's do the Ernie Banks. Let's play two. Roll call. Mrs. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Resolution 5425 passes. Now resolution 5426, authorizing the CO to enter into an agreement to renew lease for 5139 Holland Drive to the Community Action Agency of Hamilton County.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The resolution passes. The board will now.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, please.
before you go into executive session, and I hope this person doesn't knock me over my head, but I think I just feel like that, sometimes you just have to recognize when people persevere and push forward and keep going forward, no matter what's happening in their personal life. I'm not going to call anybody's name, but I'm going to ask if we have a person that helped brought Pinecrest through, and that person was going through a lot of their own personal items, and not one day did they slack off or say, hey, I'm not going to do it. And the thing got approved and got closed, and she was on top of it every step of the way. So if you would join me and I'm not going to say her name, but if everybody would join me and just give her a round of applause for everything that she went through to help us get that, I would appreciate it. If we could do that. I know she's going to kill me for saying something, but I didn't say your name, so don't throw nothing at me too much.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's it's about doing the things when sometimes nobody's even watching, and doing this in a world that causes us to scratch our heads. How, if you can allow me a moment of facetiousness, how no good deed goes uncriticized. And I'm laughing in the greatest sense of duty to our tenants.
Yeah.
And that's what I hear you saying, Greg, because in the end, that's who we're serving.
Right.
And when we do, and our folks do what you're describing, it's about meeting the needs of our tenants and in a gold standard fashion. So thank you for sharing that with us and using this moment to call attention to that individual's efforts. Okay, so I don't think we need a vote to go into executive session. We'll have.
Yeah, you actually,
Yeah, we
yeah,
do.
you have to.
I'll make a
We do.
motion that we enter into executive session for the purposes of personnel.
Second.
Second, okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, Ms. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Weedman,
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The motion passes. We'll now go into executive session.
And I don't think we need anybody else to stay on.
Yeah.
I think we're good. So thank you for joining us for this meeting. I think we're done. I think when we come back, there's nothing else that we're going to need you for. So.
Yeah, well said, Tom. Thanks to each of you. I'm sure Greg's going to hang around in case we have a question or two for him. But thank you so much. Have a great Tuesday, what's left of it.
Thank you.
Get lots of rest.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Rob, will you'll bring us into executive session, Rob, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How will we know that's been done? We'll just see the board members. Okay. And Greg will join us if and when we ask him to.
Correct.
In case you're wondering, any of you.
And there's just going to be 4, correct, at this point, because Terry Spears is not with us?
Correct. The 4 board members. Laverne, click on the blue button.
There we go. Okay,
Okay, so
7:37. We're out of executive session.
Gary, you there?
Yes, he's there.
Yes, he said.
Yeah, yes, I am.
okay, so the board is going back to the regular meeting session from executive session. May I have a motion to come out of executive session? A motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
The chair votes aye, the motion passes. We are back in general session, and I will now pass to Commissioner Weedman to read a resolution.
Yeah, this is resolution number 5427, a resolution to award a bonus to the Chief Executive Officer of the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority for contract year 2020. Resolution 5427, whereas the Chairman of the Board of Commissioners for the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority, upon coming out of the June 30th, 2020 executive session, and after reviewing Mr. Johnson's annual accountabilities, made a recommendation to award a bonus to Mr. Gregory D. Johnson, Chief Executive Officer of the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority for the contract year 2020. Now therefore be it resolved by the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority Board of Commissioners does authorize the award of a bonus per the existing employment contract of Gregory D. Johnson, MS, PHM, EDEP, as the Chief Executive Officer for the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority. So that is, and I make a motion to approve resolution 5427.
Thank
Second.
you. A second. All right. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The resolution passes. And with no other business to come before the board, may I have a motion?
Mr. Miles, before you close the meeting,
Yes, please.
I would like to ask the board, this was not on your agenda tonight. With everything that's going on in the country and in our community, I would like to have the ability, if we can afford it, and I have to look at some numbers, to extend our moratorium on evictions. The federal moratorium on public housing ends on July the 25th. And after we do some research and look at some financial numbers to see how many we potentially could have, I would like to have the option, since we don't meet in July, to possibly extend that, if we can, through September the 1st, to allow families to either regain employment, sign repayment agreements, or utilize the LIFT for the city of Cincinnati, other CARES money for Hamilton County, and or PRC funds to keep their housing.
Fully support.
Yeah. Are you looking for a resolution?
Yes. I think Gary.
A resolution or a motion?
I recommended the motion for it.
Okay. So Laverne, he's just made a motion of that resolution. Is there?
So a commissioner is going to have to make the motion, so I will make that motion.
Okay. Thank you. A second.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call. Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The resolution passes.
Thank you.
All
Motion
right.
to adjourn.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn has been heard. A
Second.
second. All right. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call to adjourn. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The motion passes, and the meeting is adjourned. Thanks to each of you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Greg,
Thank
thanks
you.
for the great job you're doing. Keep it up.
Yeah,
Thank you so
Great.
much. I appreciate it. Thank you so
you.
much.
You're doing good too, Gary.
Yeah.
He
Bye.
can't do what he do without you.
I sure can. He knows that.
Yeah. And, you know, I guess it goes without saying how much we can accomplish when we make the effort to hear one another and appreciate others' points of view that may not be initially obvious to ourselves. And I'm referring to the collegiality of the board, how important that is to the work that Greg and staff are trying to do. That they don't have additional work because the board isn't doing its part to be responsible and live the mission as well from what is for a board member to be. So, any other comments before we've already adjourned? This is really just happy hour.
Be safe.
Thank
Be
you
safe.
all.
Okay.
Bye.
Take
All
care.
right.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye.
Thank you.